Now, if you're paying attention to the news, we hear news about the possibility of a recession in the US economy. If there's a recession in the US economy, that could impact us as well. It is unclear what is the time frame for such an impact. Will it be 6 months? Will it be 1 year? Whatever the case is, if there is a US recession, that may mean that the millions of US tourists that come here on a regular basis may not now have money to spend during that recession period. That means less people going on tours and less people visiting. No one's going to board a cruise ship and come to the Cayman Islands and spend what they don't have during a recession. It also bothers me that we don't know the terms of the contract between the government and the cruise ship owners. For example, what will happen if there's a delay or halt in a project? What does the contract say? Will the government be liable for damages or penalties if they stop the project? Does the government have a flexible exit strategy in those cases? Or will we be left to pay a liability for damages for $200 or $300 million? And who will pay that? And more worrying, if there's a breach of contract by the government, will the cruise lines then take over the port explicitly and expressly? In my view, it would be in the best interest of the public if we could see details of the terms of the contract between the government and the cruise line so that we can understand the types of damages or penalties that we would incur, that we would have to pay, and our children would have to pay if the government breaches the contract. In the absence of appropriate contractual provisions and that contract between the government and the cruise ship lines, we should be able to sue as voters and members of the public each politician who supported this project. When you go to the polls, you must consider these factors. Those factors are the economic analysis, the environmental impacts, the infrastructure strain. These factors help you to make an informed decision about whether to vote yes or no for the port. Don't consider just how much money you may earn, but also the environmental impact and infrastructure strain. In relation to the environmental impact, we don't want to lose 7 Mile Beach. We don't want cloudy water for a whole year. And we don't want to destroy our ecosystem or natural environment. We don't want to lose the beach. We don't want to lose our airline tourism. We don't want another traffic problem. We don't want a loss of 700 jobs that will go to cheap labor. We don't want a bad contract that makes us liable to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in damages and penalties. We have to consider where the government would find that money to pay. Will it come from an allocation from education, or pensions, or children's school lunches? An exposure to such an amount of damage could be a great burden for the government to bear, and ultimately for your children to bear. It would also be unfair if, in the case of a breach of contract, if the cruise lines obtained explicit control over the port and our tourism product. If the cruise lines have significant influence over how our tourism product looks, then that is not in our best interests. We must retain control at all times under the terms of the contract. Otherwise, the look and feel of our tourism product will only represent outside commercial interests. In my view, we simply don't have enough information. We need to see that contract. Otherwise, this project seems too much of a risk for us to bear. It is unsustainable from day one. In my view, government has left us with only one option. I am going to vote no.